Well, thanks for staying with us. You're watching live coverage of the Times Fact Report, a report which is perhaps the only report on coronavirus which will tell you that how exactly India is likely to move. Are we prepared if the lockdown is extended? And what about state finances and how efficiently is our medical infrastructure ready? The report has some interesting findings. It's used various and different models, and the findings of those models will just come up on your screen. But the bottom line here is that we are nowhere close to a peak. Peak will happen in mid-May, and highly affected areas may roll over the peak into the month of June. So if India may see a partial lockdown, and if some states may not see a removal of lockdown, what about essential supplies? So far, companies like Amul, Parle, and other companies have done a great job in maintaining and ensuring that the milk supply, the biscuit supply, daily essential supplies are not compromised. But if the lockdown is extended, which is what the report is indicating, should you get worried about it? So I'm going to throw it open to Mayank and Mr. Sodhi. Gentlemen, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Sodhi, when we spoke to you first, when the lockdown was announced, you came on the channel and you said, don't worry, Amul is prepared and we will make sure that India does not run out of dairy supply. And you've managed to demonstrate that you are capable of keeping up your promise. But now, given that we are not peaking out in some key states and lockdown may be partially removed or it may not be removed, what is your preparedness?
Nikunj, let me tell you, when you talk about food or packed food or organized sector, there are three stakeholders. One is the farmer who is producing food. Second is the consumer, mainly in the urban center, who is consuming it. And third is the supply chain, which is connecting production with the. We are very lucky. I was hearing, whole industry in pessimism and mess, but food industry is lucky that because of 1.35 billion people who are consuming, whether at home or not. In fact, when at home, consumption has increased. So consumption has not gone down, so is the production. What was little bit happened was in the supply chain. Initially, if you talk about Amul, we have got three types of supply chain. One is for the fresh product where we distribute milk, buttermilk or dahi, and that was more or less in line, and we continue to supply right from day one or minute one when the lockdown is announced. Initially demand increased, then gone down, still increased 10 to 12% lower in the fresh product because of the HoReCa sector closing down. For other segment is our dairy product, butter, cheese, ghee, milk powder, tetra milk, that is ambient and chilled product. That took some time to systemize. Within 2-3 days, it was online. And in fact, in most of the product categories, demand increased from 10 to 50%. Today we are selling double the quantity of paneer, 50% more quantity of tetra milk, 20% more of milk powder, dairy whitener, butter or ghee. Simply because people are sitting at home making more headache. Earlier, there used to be working breakfast, working lunch. Now everybody is having proper breakfast, proper lunch and proper dinner. And dairy products are consumed in all the three meals, rather dessert also. So that is. The third category, which has been definitely impacted in Amul or dairy sector, is the ice creams. Because most of the shops are closed down for the ice cream parlor. So initially our sale was down by 95%. Now every day, whether you talk about ice cream or you talk about dairy product, every day is better than the yesterday. Every day sales are picking up. So what is happening is, it is not that everyday consumption is, consumption was already there, but pipeline got emptied. Distributor, retailer, and gradually as everything is falling in place, no doubt the window involved is very small. So we are filling the pipeline. So how fast a company can fill up the pipeline and system that much. So let me assure you, demand has not gone down. Only pipelines emptied. So if not today you're getting the demand, tomorrow you'll get the demand. No doubt there has been lot of innovation in supply chain. If I tell you in
Also
case of
bring on board
Amul,
Mr.
I
Siraj
talked
Hussain
to you about.
here. Right, fair point, Mr. Sondi. You know, it's a great point what you've made in terms of availability of dairy products. I also need to bring on board the former Agriculture Secretary, Mr. Siraj Hussain. Mr. Hussain, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. What we're debating right now is that how exactly do you think the agriculture sector is prepared if lockdown is partially removed and if highly affected states like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and in northern, the farm belt, if lockdown is not removed, do you think that's going to hurt the agriculture economy, especially the crop which is not completely harvested because of lockdown?
I think in Punjab, Haryana, and UP, the harvesting is now going on, while in Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and Rajasthan, harvesting is almost over. So local labor was used in Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh. And even though there is shortage of labor in Punjab and Haryana, but I think they will be able to complete their harvesting by using harvesters, mechanized harvesters, as well as the local labor. The real issue will come when the harvested crop is taken to mandis. So far, we have seen the procurement has started, but it has not reached, it is nowhere near the peak which should have been achieved by now. So I think the next few days will show how this challenge is going to be met in various mandis in Punjab, Haryana, and UP.
Mr. Siraj Hussain, a lot of emphasis has been given to make sure that the Rabi harvesting is not disrupted. The central government, the state governments have come in. There's lifting, some restrictions from the 20th of April as well. But what is perhaps proving to be a huge challenge is transportation and getting the produce to the mandis and then getting the supply chain in place. What do you think needs to be done to ease that?
I think the government of India came out with very clear orders as early as 27th of March, when the Ministry of Home Affairs issued second addendum to its guidelines. However, what I have found, and my feedback is that in most of the places, the center's instructions were not followed by the district administration, the police, the district magistrates, etc. As a result of which, transportation bottlenecks continued to be there. And I think the reason was that the communication from the center was only restricted to Joint Secretary Health informing the country about what is happening to tackle coronavirus as a disease. In my view, what we are struggling with is not only a health problem, but also an economic, social, and sociological problem. So I thought the situation would have been much better if a press conference was taken every day by a senior minister, let us say the Home Minister, or if a minister was not available, then at least by Cabinet Secretary, so that the orders of the center were better understood by the district magistrates and the police officials who were putting all kinds of restrictions on transportation.
I want to bring Mayank Shah into the conversation. Mayank, great to have you on the show this evening. And I know in the initial weeks or so, Parle struggled a bit. Capacities were down to about 15%. First up, give us a sense of whether the situation has improved, what an extension of the lockdown really means for production, and what about distribution chains?
So this was, unprecedented, and we had never seen this kind of situation in the past. So I think initially everybody, all industries, all companies were a little baffled. But I must say the way, government helped us out in terms of ensuring the food security, food safety of the country. In about a week's time, we were operational. Most of our plants were operational. Today, as we speak, we are at least about 35–40% of our capacity. And in terms of, availability is continuously improving. And I think, I would agree with most things that Mr. Sodhi said, that the demand has gone up. So while, you're still working with your 35-40% capacity, the demand has gone up. So for most of the times, whenever a consumer goes to a shop or a grocery outlet or a retail outlet, he does not find, product. But that, to my mind, should be taken care of in next 1 week's time, because the production has gone down, the production has increased, the capacity utilization has increased many-fold, in last few days. So from about, as I said last time, 10-15% that we started about 1.5-2 weeks back, we are at about 35-40% plus of our capacity utilization. Hopefully in next week's time, you should see stocks, on the shelves. Even today, as we speak, it's not that the stocks are not available. At most probably they may not be available on a particular day, but the next day they are available. The pipeline is dry, as I think most people are, or most companies are saying. So there are two things. One, you have to fill up the pipelines. Plus, you have to also make it available. You have to cater or service to the increase in demand as well. So that's something that's happening. The kind of issues that we had initially are all getting resolved right from working at the local level. So I've been in touch with government. I've had meeting with ministers and all, and they are equally concerned with the situation where food is not available on the shelves. So they're helping us out in everything. And going forward, I mean, we expect capacities to reach at least about 65-70% in next 1 to 2 weeks. Once that is done, I think you wouldn't have any problem in terms of having stocks on the shelf. But even as we speak, I can assure you that there is no problem with the stocks. Maybe it may not be available on a particular day, but the next day they would be available. And as Mr. Sodhi rightly pointed out, the consumption has gone up. See, what typically happens is when you are at home, and you have kids, who are not going to school, typically, snacks like biscuits and other food items like that are consumed. The consumption goes up. You need to give them something or other to eat. And as a result of that, what happens is we've seen that people also tend to buy more. They tend to hoard. So the other day I was in market and I saw, I was there to buy some groceries, and I saw that, there was somebody who came and, he said, 5 packet Parle ji ke dena, and, the retailer said, 5 नहीं आप 2 लेके जाइए, कल 2 और मैं दे दूंगा आपको, कल आके ले जाइए. So a bit of rationing also is happening, I think. So, it's that way. I mean, he was asking for a 20 rupee Parle ji, 5 packets of them. Now, typically, they buy 2 or 3 packets, or about a 1 packet of 20 rupee or 50 rupee or something like that. But that's also happening. Consumption is also going up, a bit of hoarding, because he has seen the product which was not available yesterday, today available in the shop. He tends to buy a little more than what is required. What is required.
Mayank, fair point. Okay, I'm going to get one more comment from Mr. Sodhi. Mr. Sodhi, what is your experience telling you where the demand drop has been, where the demand drop could come back, and whether demand drop is normal? Because Amul deals not only with milk, they deal with value added product, which in a sense capture the entire per capita curve in India. 45 days, it's been a learning for all of us, but it must be a consumer experience which you are analyzing at Amul. What has changed for Amul temporarily? What has changed for Amul permanently? And what has not changed for Amul at all?
Well, what has not changed, let me answer first, not at all, is procurement of milk from 36 lakh farmers. In fact, our procurement has increased by 15% in the April, because small players are not buying milk from the farmers. Other dairies are not buying, ice cream people are not buying. So our plants are running 15% more than what we used to in the last April. So that has not changed. Milk purchase is normal. Now, if you talk about product categories, like I was saying, product categories like besides the milk, because of 10-12% down because of Horeca segment, product categories like which are used in the home for recipe purpose, like ghee, butter, cheese, paneer, has increased by 15 to 50%. I mean, people are making more recipes at home. I mean, cooking pasta, cooking baked vegetables, cooking cheese toast, cooking lot of cheese kebab, paneer kebab. So that is happening. So consumption has that way increased, and we are producing more, supplying more. What has reduced drastically is, like I said, ice cream. It was 95% down, but every day is picking up. Second, Amul cream, which is basically more used in the Horeca segment, gone down by 70%. Beverages, the flavored milk, the shakes, the coffee, it had gone down more than 80%, but again now it has come up to the 50%. So, like Mr. Mayank said, people are consuming. Only pipeline is empty. So naturally, everybody is buying on priority. Companies are also supplying on priority. What has other changes? Supply chain. There are a lot of changes happen. We had three types of distributor for a fresh product, for dairy products, and for frozen product like ice cream. Now, because ice cream infrastructure is lying idle, working capital, manpower, distributor. So we have told ice cream fellow also, you can handle milk also, you can handle dairy products also. So because window involved is only 2 to 6 hours, and the same distributor who was distributing
I'm going
butter
to
ghee
get
can't
Mr.
cater
Hussain
to all
once
the
again, and
little.
Mr. Sundi, every time I talk to you on television, we talk about Amul products, and it's always a very appetizing conversation. I'm sure by the end of the show, both Tamanna and me will be hungry. But I'm going to throw this back to Mr. Hussain for to understand the importance of the rural and the agrarian economy here. And Mr. Hussain, there is going to be a demand crunch. Agri-inflation may have come back in the short term, but demand ultimately will play a large role, and agri-income is not going to be there. Do you think it makes perfect sense to increase MSPs? It's a touchy topic. It's a topic which, in a sense, has worked in the past to support the farm income and support the agri-income. But do you think now MSPs, or good old MSPs, have to make a comeback at an increased price?
In a few weeks' time, the government will take a call on the MSP for Kharif crops. Due to shortage of labor in various parts of India, I think the state governments would have already submitted their demand to the Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, CACP, to increase the MSP by taking into account higher expenditure on labor cost. I think we will go by the government will go by the report of the CACP, and we should see an increase of just about 4 to 6%. I don't think very substantial increase is going to come. In any case, in 2018, Kharif 2018, before the general elections, the government had revised the formula for fixation of MSP, and now it is fixed at 50% over A2 plus FL cost, at least. So I do not think that MSP for Kharif crops are going to see a very substantial increase, but also, I do not think that there will be a very low increase of 1 or 2%. So 4 to 6% increase is what I see for Kharif crops.
I just want to touch upon one issue very quickly, both with Mr. Sodhi and Mr. Shah, which is the shortage of labor. Now, this is across industry, across sectors, and across businesses. And it's tied in very closely to the sort of mass migration we saw in the beginning of the lockdown. We might see a large number of people want to move once the lockdown lifts, and we'll have to wait and see what happens post 3rd May. But Mr. Shah, let me come to you with this question, and across the board really. Will it be now a big challenge to bring back labor forces who may have gone to their hometowns and villages during the lockdown, or may want to travel there once this lifts?
Well, I feel, that's going to be a challenge, definitely. But it would probably differ from industry to industry. There are certain industries where this migrant labor is more on contractual basis. I think it would be a bigger challenge there. With us, as a company, most of the people who are working for us are on our rolls. And the kind of security that provides, that a job, being on a company roll provides to them is immense. So, yes, I understand there would be some who would have, probably gone today to their native places to be safe and secure. But eventually they would come back. They have a bigger motivation to come back because they have a short job. They have perks which, they probably would not get if they are going to some unorganized segment company, or if they are working as a contractual labor. So that, to my mind, is a big motivation for them to come back, and we are hopeful that they would come back as a result of that.
Mr. Sodhi, your take on this challenge of labor and what companies like yourself can do to maybe increase the number of people you now hire, bring them back safely, and make sure that there is social distancing put in place.
Yeah, Tamanna ji, in labor front there are two issues. One is the shortage of labor. Second is maintaining social distancing in the plant. So what we have found, shortage of labor is mainly in the bigger metro cities. Like we have got plants in Bombay, Delhi or Calcutta. There we have faced. But fortunately most of the dairy plants are smaller places and where labor is from around. So there that is not problem. But what has happened in Bombay, Delhi also, where labor has reduced, fortunately or unfortunately, that there are certain lines like ice cream are not fully utilized. So that labor has been shifted to the other value-added product side. But bigger problem is maintaining social distancing inside the plant. As far as the main processing is concerned, that is automated. But if you see the packaging line or the loading, there are a lot of labor involved, and it is extremely difficult to manage the social distancing. So there we have to see the number of lines to be increased. So few people are standing on one line. So you have to work at lesser speed. So you work all the three shifts, you work at the more packaging line, but with the lesser speed, so you can maintain the production and the demand. But I think gradually labor is coming back, and that problem will be sorted out. But problem of labor may be more in the construction industry and also in the metro like Bombay. The big problem is there for labor. There is a organized labor called Mathadi workers in Bombay. They themselves come, nor they allow other labor to come. So there we are facing problem, but not at the other place.
Absolutely. Bringing the labor back to the big cities, assuring them, many of them have felt abandoned and suddenly lost when the lockdown came into play, especially in the unorganized sector. I'm not talking about large companies, they managed to take care of their own. But we saw that in the mass movement of people who are right now sitting and wondering what comes next. Remember, this is the fuel that runs our cities as well. So we will have to look at this carefully. Before we wrap this mega broadcast, and of course I want to thank Mr. Sodhi, Mr. Shah and Mr. Hussain for joining us in the last leg of this. Let us just take our viewers through the key findings of this broadcast and this research and what it has told us. The top takeaways include looking at a range in India of a peak between 30,000 cases to nearly 2.8 lakh cases. 2.8 lakh cases would be the worst case scenario. We are looking possibly at about 70,000 odd cases by the 16th of May. So what this tells us that even after the 3rd of May, it's not like COVID-19 cases will stop occurring or it will all disappear. We are likely to see, or possibly we can see, a steady rise in cases. What will be important is how we deal with it. The closing date of the entire pandemic in India could be towards the last week of August 2020. Some states may come out of it in the later part of May, and of course we are seeing a different position in different states right now, later part of May to early June for some states. For other states it might be even 1 month after that. That is, the highly infected states might take longer. The only way to eradicate the pandemic is a robust lockdown for a substantial period of time. We have to be especially careful once the lockdown lifts, so that there isn't a rebound of numbers, which is why the next steps will be very, very carefully plotted out, and we will have to see what happens. The medical infrastructure is also under question. In a worst case scenario, we may have a shortage of ICU beds, and that is something all states and policymakers have to prepare for. These are the broad findings. It gives us a sense that we're in this for the long haul. We need to tighten our belts, and we have to remember to grit our teeth through this. The lockdown is necessary. Social distancing is not a choice. It is a survival tool, and we're in it all together. With that, I want to thank all of you for joining us on this mega broadcast on ET Now.